The process of evolution can be seen as the process of learning to discipline the personality, or to focus our expenditures of energy in a precise manner, one that moves us closer to our metaphysical goals. What is the nature of discipline? Does it have to be difficult and tedious? What qualities enable the strengthening of discipline? What qualities detract from the strengthening of discipline? Carla channeling. I am Quo. I am Quo. We have most happily been able to contact this instrument, and we greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator, in whose service we move and have our being. It was a good example of your query upon discipline and the process which this instrument has spent the previous approximate hour of your time, as we find this instrument is aware of time, in the attempt to banish the genuine exhaustion of the physical self due to pain and exertion. This instrument's red ray energy center was most dim, and therefore the instrument, in preparing to offer words of inspiration, neglected to be enough aware of the need for the focus upon the re-energizing of the will to live joyfully that is the mark of the open red ray. Thus, to this instrument's surprise, we asked the instrument to move backwards in the tuning process, to repeat several times prayers of supplication for the uplifting of joy and life. The instrument is now in satisfactory balance. However, we would have done this instrument some harm by calling upon vital energies had we not requested repeatedly that the instrument work within its own faith, its own path, its own ways of recalling and reviving the joy of living. This takes patience. And when there is additional work to be done, after an hour of prayer, it is, shall we say, indeed an effort. We find you have the term, no pain, no gain. This is a shallow statement, yet in most cases accurate enough in terms of learning the discipline of any activity of third density. For each entity is unknown to itself, and there must be put forward the effort to know the self in deeper and more profound ways. This illusion, which you now enjoy, is upon the level of molecular structure, magnetic relationships, and the geometry of what you call matter, placed in order. However, the divine thought within, which is love, that which is the true self, is covered over, as is the molten center of your planet, with honeycombs of many, many kinds of material. And finally, the shallow waters and land masses of the topography of the surface of your sphere. This planet is an analogy to that which is the consciousness of love within. That is how deeply it is buried. Your passion seems far from you. The discipline of your personality to know the self seems nowhere upon land or sea, in the air or underneath the waters of the earth. There is no conscious way to break into or to tunnel into the heart of your true nature, which is not personality, but which is desired by your free will at this time. Much effort has already been expanded by each of you. Each of you has made choice after choice after choice. When weary, you have sat by the road of seeking. When energetic, once again, you take up the burden of humanity and walk the path of the seeker. Seeking in the air, the earth, the water, and the fire of energy, that which is completely unable to be found by the conscious mind. There is, however, that oneness between the molten center of your being, the passion of the divine love within you, and the one great original thought that is the Creator. And you are within this illusion to learn the nature of yourself and to choose how you wish to shape that nature, how you wish to make choices within the life to serve, to be inspired, to rest, to seek, to be patient, to be despairing, to be thoughtless. All these are equally permissible. There is no judgment, only free will. That is the law of your density. And free will brooks no discipline. You are free. Thus, as in any classroom, when you, who do not know, decide to know, effort must take place. Now, there are two answers to your question about the pain of discipline. Firstly, in the deepest sense, all discipline is painful, for it denies free will. The full action of chaos, and chaos is the natural atmosphere into which you, as mind and body and spirit, are birthed in this illusion. You have complete freedom. On the other hand, the first choice is perhaps the most difficult, the most humbling, the most painful. For it is a final, deep, and complete awareness that chaos is not desirable. That chaos is but the wind upon the water, the waves upon the shore. Without observation of order, without faith in any order within the self, without faith in any work to the self, beyond this little shadow of a life that flickers briefly and moves from dust to dust. It is the choice to have faith. That is the painful, hard-won, difficult, and almost impossible to remember cornerstone of all spiritual work. Once this choice has been not only consciously made, that is, the choice to seek in faith the true orderly nature of the self, ignoring the obvious chaos about one, that one may begin to seek out tools for learning and decide when, how, and how intensively to apply them to the life experience. Once this cornerstone decision has been made, the difficulty level of increasing the discipline of the personality will vary widely with the random actions of free will upon catalyst. Sometimes the desire is very strong within, and the work that needs to be done in meditation, contemplation, study, analysis, and service seems to be joyful, easy, and most pleasant. Sometimes the self is so far removed from any knowledge of its own true heart that there is almost no possibility of spiritual work. And it takes the greatest effort to bring oneself back to that original cornerstone decision to live a life of faith, that you are more than a shadow that will fall into dust. Each of you has this faith. Each of you is therefore through the most painful and difficult portion of the spiritual search. For once you have put your foot upon the path of the seeker of the true self, the energy of that decision comes as a gadfly to nag and move you again and again, no matter how far you stray, aiding you to mindfulness. This is the tool we would give you this evening: mindfulness. How heedless you are. You are heedless of beauty. You are heedless of pain. You are heedless of much that goes on about you, as are all entities. There is too much catalyst to process for any entity to process completely. And so a series of choices is constantly being made as to what, in the environment of the self, shall be heeded, as to where the mind shall be placed, the attention drawn. We encourage meditation with the regularity that must seem endless to those who hear our words. But meditation is the key that unlocks the door to that shuttle and to that molten passion of love within, awareness of which inspires and enlivens each portion of the experience of your illusion. This entity, for instance, has been heedless of the needs of its physical vehicle, focusing upon outer works and not focusing upon that for which it has dedicated its life. If it is not joyful in living, all else must cease, and joy must again be found. For without that foundation, without that energy, all other energy centers are depleted, flaccid, weak, and unable to bear the energy of inspiration. It is not in any way unspiritual to evaluate the self each day, beginning with the fundamental energy of love of life, to be of good cheer, to care for experience and welcome catalyst is the first priority of the most spiritual of beings. It is not to the one who denies the need for care of the self that glory is given, but to the one who keeps that energy open, that joy alive. This is true for each energy center in an ascending pattern. So mindfulness begins with the mindfulness of the need for the instrument of incarnation, which is your physical vehicle. Mindfulness then continues to evaluate energies, to ask the self if there is joy in knowing the self and in knowing others, then in knowing and appreciating the group in which one experiences incarnation, the job, the friendships, the society of your nation state, the quality of that sphere which you call your home at this time. Others who have not enjoyed the clear, yellow ray environment of freedom and the passion for it. And at this time there is much movement upon your planet, passionately to seek it for all people. Yet you who have already won your freedom and are the children of freedom and the grandchildren of freedom, how do you value it? How do you use it? How do you support it? How do you care for it? Where is your balance of joy and freedom? All this is discipline that must be attended to before you may work with the heart, to open the heart, to have compassion on the self, on others, on your planet. First, you must do your work with your own self, finding your joy, finding your passion. You have chosen faith. You have chosen to believe that there is a reality beyond this illusion. You have done the hardest work. The rest is learning. The rest is the discipline of the personality that began in the chaos of unlearning into which you were born. As we have spoken, each of you has examined the energies, has opened the heart, has begun to feel each other's presence as seekers. The unity of this group with all who seek, with those such as we who seek to help, and are ourselves seeking further to refine ever more the discipline of the personality. All this must be done before you can begin to discipline your personality. You must first find joy. You must first allow your faith to show forth in a love of life and living. Sometimes you do most beautifully at this. At other times, there is a woeful lack of work because the self does not feel worthy of such fundamental work, wishing only to serve others. Nay, my friends, prepare the self first for service. Now we speak of mindfulness itself, a mindfulness of your choice, a mindfulness of your faith that there is indeed within you the passion that created the universe and all that is in it. In meditation, roads are built that create a pathway to an immediate experience of this love. This is work done in discipline. When the energy of living within you is good, and the desire to learn is strong, there is only joy in this work. It can also be the most difficult work you can imagine. A great deal depends upon the preparation of yourself to be a person of joy and lover of life. Be mindful of who you are. You are love. You are a co-creator with the original thought of your own experience and your own creation. There is not one creation. There are as many creations as there are perceptors of creation. Each personal truth is absolute. One cannot give to another faith, but only the desire to find that faith and the realization that such a thing is possible. We come to speak to you as those who have learned mindfulness. We find in this instrument's mind the phrase, to pray without ceasing. This is a good phrase to express that which we mean by being mindful. In meditation, you tabernacle with the Infinite One. You listen to the silence that speaks deeply, without words, and gives the information that will give you the energy, the joy, and the faith to move ahead. Without the meditation, it is very difficult to remain in a state of unity with your greater self, with the Creator within. This is the heart of the discipline of personality. Each of you has read many, many texts which attempt to aid in the process of accelerating the evolution of mind, body, and spirit. The catalyst for the discipline of personality is joyful remembering of who you are. As you remember who you are, more and more of that, which you may willfully seem to be, but which you are not, is no longer needed and falls away. The effort is not in pushing away the things of this world, as this instrument would say. The effort is in creating within the self a joyful remembrance of love as the nature of the true self, which creates an atmosphere in which gradually, and in a rhythmic, appropriate time, one after another, those things which are hindrances to joy fall away. Anger is not overcome. It is simply no longer needed to express the passion of the self. Distress, despair, all negative emotion is distorted love. It is passion turned and bent and unrecognizable. But as love is all there is, so with your free will, you may create ponderous illusion upon illusion, finding perverse comfort in negative emotion, for it is familiar. And that which is familiar is safe, and that which is unfamiliar is not. When one is mindful, one finds oneself slowly able to release the fear that has caused the distortion, that has created for the self an armor against that which is perceived as a threat. To one continuously aware of the self as love, there are no threats. There is only remembrance of the truth of love. We are mindful of this entity's weariness, and would therefore transfer this contact with many thanks to the instrument for its remembrance of its great desire to love, to the one known as Jim. We hail each through the mouth of this humble one in love and light. I am Quo. Jim channeling. I am Quo, and greet each again in love and light. At this time we would offer ourselves. Side 1 of tape ends. Jim channeling. I am Quo, and am again with this instrument. We find some difficulty with this instrument. We shall pause. Back to Carla. I am Quo, and am again with this instrument. We find that as we have spoken to this instrument, it has moved in sympathy with our words and glows with its usual brightness despite its tiredness. This instrument was simply forgetful, mired in the cares of physical difficulty and mental confusion. There is no need for such. There is no need to give oneself the great drama of difficulty. But it is important, as one relaxes into the rhythms of life and accepts what sisters and brothers come to one, be they pain or well-being, confusion or simplicity, joyful surroundings and happy friends, or difficult relationships and difficult feelings. These are the surfaces. These are the wind that blows where it will. These are those things to which you give up your will instead of remembering. In meditation, remember. In action, remember. In all things, remember how thankful you are, how blessed you are to have consciousness, life, and the opportunity for the accelerated advancement of this great choice-making density. Yes, my friends, to you who are not of this density, it is a foreign land. The language is difficult, the people barbaric sometimes, the feelings too intense, too painful. Suffering seems inevitable, and so you forget the joy of being. Be mindful. Be faithful to yourself, to the love within you, to the consciousness that abides eternally, infinitely within you. You are the creation. Create well, my friends. We shall go no further this particular evening, for indeed, this instrument has overspent its energy upon the physical plane. But we wish to leave you with gentle words and merry thoughts. There is one within this room which has experienced great joy in recent past. The joy of that yellow ray activity of great vitality and companionship. This is a wonderful and inspirational memory. Of itself, it is only useful ephemerally, as a memory, as a knowledge of how things can be. Its use is inestimable. Others within this group are battle-weary and worn. Reach within that weariness for the tenderness, love, and the cherishing that has moved within each in service to each. As difficulties have been recognized, accepted, and perhaps allowed to take center stage instead of mindfulness. There is no discipline in despair, but only the chaos of distortion. Be mindful of this lesson. Be mindful to look for the blessings, for the beauties, for the peace and serenities that lie around you in the creation of the Father.